how quick our good friends come back.
So what are we talking about exactly?
Hey, Pompous, you back? How you been?
I'm always fine. I won't ask how you are because I don't really care.
Alright, thanks, man. Jeez. You haven't changed, have you?
Why would I change on Pompous?
It's always good to have him back when he comes in.
Of course it's good. Type of compliment. Jeez. Hubert.
There he is. Always a pleasure to have him back.
So what are these cases we're talking about?
Well, we're talking about two people.
Alright, fine. Who are these people and what's the problem?
Well, we're talking about... I met him first.
You can all meet me anytime, don't worry. Say my name, bitches.
Pompous, man. You're such a bastard.
No, I'm just Pompous. What's your problem?
Crazy. So we have two cases. One of sociopathy.
There's nothing wrong with the sociopath. What's wrong with all of you?
Just... He was nicer, yeah. He said...
Don't talk about my ass. I'm just kidding, you can talk about as much as you like.
Yeah, he's getting a bit out of control, this guy.
Out of control? I was never in control. What are you on about? It's getting a bit hot outside, I might leave.
Fair enough. He just comes and goes whenever. Too many thoughts can do that. Ah, man. So anyway.
Yes, anyway. What were you saying?
Yeah, so, thanks, Pompous, man.
You're welcome, anytime. Jeez.
So we were talking about our two cases. We have here the two separate cases from Scopus. One was the sociopath.
Get on with it. Jeez.
And one was the... He always distracts me, man.
Distract. I'm just me. You distract yourself with your brain. Jeez.
Anyway. So we have one with sociopathy.
Get on with it.
And what... And we've got one with autism. Now, here's the interesting thing. So I have this problem when people do the autism stuff. When people talk, I tend to take them literally and I keep forgetting that they're just talking.
You take people literally because you're an idiot.
Well, thanks for that, Pompous.
I'm just telling the truth as I, Yeah.
So that's how it works. So anywho. And, people will brainstorm, maybe we should do this. And I'll be like, yeah, that's right, we should do it.
No, they're just saying things. God, I'm not even human and I get that.
Yeah. So that's the story. And when someone says something, you have to wonder about literal talk, though. Even when they're not. I think they pretend to kid. Interesting, yeah. And, they'll sit in a room and I'll be like... Possibly. But people think out loud, which is a concept I never thought of before. And them thinking out loud is a problem. What about the rain this morning? Ah, yeah. That one there, I'll let you think about that. I've had a few people ask me about that. Some people got it. Some people had to think about it. My own brother didn't actually get it, which was interesting. So I thought, okay, well, if he doesn't get it, we'll leave it up to the viewer.
Maybe you need to be more specific. Gab smacked.
Yeah. Crazy. Ah, you sent me a tweet. Okay, I'll have a look. Didn't know if you were joking or not, yeah. Well, you never know. This is how we build our audience. The fake left will see it and go, that's right. We really should. The rain is biased. And someone else might think it's ridiculous, so we'll see how we go. Cover up a second. Have you ever looked into Hippocrates?
Or do you mean Hippocrates? Ugh, you humans.
Anyway. So, yeah, there's both. Yeah, absolutely. Very good type of thinking. Rain privilege. There's a lot of interesting quotes, yeah. There's a quote that I heard from Pompous who heard from someone else about communism.
Great idea. Wrong species.
There you go. Yeah, probably.
I hate when you all wake me up. I need to be asleep right now. It's so bright. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So that is a problem with the autist. The other problem with the autists is that they don't hang around with other autists, and that's a problem. And so they come to get confused constantly, and they get told off for doing the wrong thing, and then they oversteer the other way, and by doing that they then get told they're doing the wrong thing. So it's just a constant punch in the face from either side.
I'm happy to punch from the front if you like.
No, Pompous, that's not what I'm trying to say. What do I think that is? It happened a lot. Yeah, it happened a lot with me. So there needs to be some sort of companionship with other autists. So they need to be found for them to hang out. And it needs to be explained to them. He has gotten to the center of a Tootsie Pop.
Believe me, I've heard that question many times. And I've asked Gabsback to block people over that.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that, man. Come on, Pompous.
Why not? If I had my own scope, I'd block all of you.
This guy, man. Probably just scoped to himself. Jeez.
Block. Block. Just block for fun. I love it.
Yes. So that's the thing about the autist. And the other thing is a combination of that plus living in the Western society, right? So Western society makes things easy for kids. And they come to underestimate how much work goes into the parents keeping them alive. But what's interesting about the autist is that we are unbelievably direct, factual, there's nothing else. And one of the side effects of that is extreme justice. And so with the autists, when they realize the negative impact they're having on other people, they become devastated. And it can actually reflect inwards and make them hate themselves. So that's another problem. Bad-mouthing a parent in front of them it'll make them hate that parent, because we naturally take what people say as fact. We don't realize that other people are not sure of what they're saying. And that's one of my biggest problems, and that's what happened in the past, where if I gave something to someone, I would assume that they would do it perfectly, because so would I. When someone says to me, "شبيك بيي?" اوكي بس ما نعمل شي باد يعني. I can't wait to move out of this place. Ugh. Constant, man. Well, the autists take things as they say. How many languages do you speak? I speak 6 very badly and 2 very well, and it's a spectrum. And, you know, like, to get around, I can probably speak like more than 30, but that's I don't consider that speaking. Like, you know, like in Greek, if I say like, you know, Charika Yachtir Norimiya Delphos, you know, which is nice to meet you, brother, or, you know, Cherete, or whatever. I mean, that's Boshpas. You're mostly English. So I don't consider that speaking a language, but I can do that in like 20 of them at least. Yeah. And I can pick up the accent and look like Shignome, yeah, Dakshikala, you know, Charistopoli Orea, you know, these basic Greeks, yeah, you know, To nomamo ine Gavriil, that means my name's Gabriel. So as I said, I don't count that as speaking. Shanghai and Pyongyang, it's like Shanghainese for Texan. I don't know how Texans speak. Sagapao. So the autist, when someone is nice to my daughter, she automatically thinks they are best of friends. Correct. Autism versus sociopathy. Autism and sociopathy are the exact reverse of each other. They're mirror images of each other. And what's interesting about things that are mirror images is that sometimes you can conflate the two. And you can mistake a sociopath for an autist, but much of the time we mistake an autist for a sociopath. And that's quite dangerous, because the autist is the most just person you can imagine, because their brain just works on what is. A sociopath, it's a borderline personality trait which makes you more concerned with what you need and less concerned with others. And the more you move along that spectrum, the more that becomes prevalent in their personality. No conscience. You can call it no conscience, yeah. But they're different from the psychopath. The psychopath enjoys causing pain in other people. Yeah, the autist doesn't understand the world that you guys live in. Probably an autist. So for example, I just heard the house 3 doors down open and close their fly screen door, which means I know that their main door is open. Fly screen, how can you tell a sociopath and an asshole? Sometimes they're one and the same. You need to have slight sociopathic tendencies to be a CEO of a company, because you need to be able to tell people to go screw themselves. And work with people and get what you want, irrespective of their feelings. Yeah, the psychopath is different because I don't want to talk about psychopaths today. I'll talk more about the sociopath and the autist, without caring about others. Yeah, I like why senses, animalistic. Hey, yeah, and everyone, like, I'm an autist, right? So I'm the exact opposite of the sociopath. So I don't even want to touch someone's hair on their head, and I would rather kill myself before hurting anyone else. So that's the exact opposite, right? Whereas the sociopath, and then you have the middle. The middle is where everyone resides. So some people might have slight autistic tendencies, might have slight sociopathic tendencies, right? And that's within the normal range. So you probably won't notice it. Someone might be a bit of an asshole. Put that comment right there. Some people might be, love to help others. I'd say you should be a vegan. Well, I want to be, but my body won't let me. My body, and my brain especially, needs protein, and it needs a lot of meat. Yeah, I thought you were going to say that. I bet you Dr. John's going to say it's a myth. I just had that feeling. Protein comes from plants. If you've been the victim of a sociopath, you'll know it. They're relentlessly selfish. Well, we're locking them in because sociopathy is a spectrum, as the same as autism. So you can have people who are slightly autistic, to people who are high functioning autistic, to people who are unbelievably autistic. Yeah. We will get there. No, I look forward to it. No. I look forward to a day when we can get there very soon. They both share antisocial traits, but in different ways. That's exactly right. It's sort of like if you think of Superman and Lex Luthor, or you think of Batman and the Joker. They exhibit very similar personality traits, but they're completely polar opposites, even though they're the same. And it's the same as an extreme leftist and an extreme rightist. They're both authoritarian. They both want to enforce their views on everyone else. You see, so that's what makes them the same, even though they're mirror images of each other. So the autist would just be called evil, correct? Yeah. But are polar opposites inside. That's exactly right. And I've been mistaken for that my whole life. In fact, as you guys know, officially now, in a capacity that's all over the universe, I've been mistaken for that. And it's horrific. It's horrific for the autist. No, I mean, it's only a recent... Thank you. Thanks, Bozzo. Borderline personality disorder is the superset of sociopaths and psychopaths. No, don't be silly. You're passionate. I like that. Your interest in languages helps you make connections with the right age of people, yeah. Lack of understanding of moral behavior. But I'm actually slightly autistic. That would make sense. Yeah, that tends to happen. In fact, I raised the connection with my psychiatrist, who's one of the highest specialized people in autism. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, you heard that? That's the same drill from this morning. Pissing me off like anything. And then there's another plane. So it goes to show you the frequency of what's going on with the airports around. And the crane that's been... So anyway, without getting distracted again, squirrel. You love woodpeckers. There's a dirty joke related to that about loving woodpeckers. I won't bring it up. You do too? Oh, that's a very bad joke. Yeah. So the sociopath, you could divide. I mean, you can divide the world. You can divide the world in many different ways. But if you're going to use the dimension of sociopathy, then you can divide the world amongst the autist and the sociopath. In fact, one of the chapters in my book is the autist versus sociopath. Actually, the autist versus psychopath. My case is unbelievably unique. In fact, my case, there's only one other person in the world that we know of who can do what I can do. And that's a problem, because without predictability in behavior through precedence, it makes you obviously unpredictable and therefore dangerous to many people. It's actually very similar to the X-Men, you know, when people fear what they don't know. And so I've been marked as someone to be feared, and that disgusts me, horrifies me, because I'm the exact opposite of that person. All I want to do is help people, and that gives me the value. That's how I don't value power or material things. I just value helping people. No, and I don't think it's sweet, right? Because I was born that way. So it's not something I chose. Sometimes I'm envious of sociopaths in the sense that they can live with themselves if they have their own car. And people said that about me. They said, oh, look, he had his own cars and stuff. I'm like, no, I never used them. I built my own little hybrid sled, which I rode around in. I come in peace. Hello, peace be with you, myself, my friend. You know, I would have those cars constantly rented and then give the money to my clients or to the poor. Well, I don't know. Sociopaths, yeah, maybe not. So in your family, half of your family will be sociopathic, right? They might only be 1% sociopathic. And we talk about they. It's a degree. It's like saying, you know, if you have water and you mix it with, I don't know, whiskey. Well, once again, we're doing this thing about sociopaths, and we do this a lot as humans. We like to pigeonhole things into, and ironically that the autist is telling you this. But what I've learned through many years of therapy, because my brain doesn't see grey, it only sees black and white, I've learned to invent, I've learned to represent it using infinite equations. So in mathematics, you can have equations that go on forever, and they have multiple variables, and each one is a characteristic. So each person is made up of this infinite amount of variables. And so when you say sociopath, there are many different variables which make that person up. So they could be 1% sociopathic, 2%, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 90% or 100, right? So someone who was, they normally come with each other, the sociopath and the narcissism. Now the reason that's confused with the autist is because the autist, I've said this before, yeah, the autist is not narcissistic. They look like they're narcissistic because they're actually not aware of other people. But as soon as they become aware, they freak out and they just want to help other people. So they'll fixate on that, you know, as soon as you make it clear to them. So one of my autistic students, I explained to him what his mother has to go through and the suffering that she has to endure, and I explain it in physical context. How come we are not aware? We're not aware because that part of the brain is missing. And so the intuition of being aware is not there. The understanding of emotion. I spent years learning what physical sensations are related to certain emotions, and then the sum of those physical sensations would then be the name I would put on all of those sensations together would be the emotion. No. My life was pretty fucked. Yeah. So as I've told you guys, you know, the teachers, I met one teacher said, put your hand up if you think Gabriel's an idiot. And almost all the class put up their hands. I had another teacher call me a fucking animal. I had, you know, I was bullied and bashed pretty much every day from the age of 4 onwards. And I would spend most of my years at school at lunchtime hiding in the bathroom. And yeah, after being severely bashed for a long time. Well, it's all in the book. So as I've said before, but an autist can in their own way. Were you normal in school? No, I was completely not. Okay. The autist is hypersensitive to emotion, but they're not aware of what it is. You think your son might be autistic? Yeah, it could actually be. Lunchtime is the worst. Yeah, all the noise and the people and the nonsensical conversation. And I even got booted out of playing handball because they considered He Shows Love. It's called Speaking Human, The Tragedy of the Retarded Genius. If you go to YouTube, you can hear a book reading. And I'm self-publishing because of the amount of graphic stuff that's in it, and so we've passed 10% for our pre-orders. We dropped school years ago. We need another 250 pre-orders to get the book out. I do. That's how I learned Italian, because I was learning French and they were teaching Italian in the room behind me, so I learned both. And then I became a teacher at the same school and taught both French and Italian. Yeah, and when you say egocentric, it's... Yes, I'm very hypersensitive to sounds. To answer those questions, I would recommend you go onto YouTube at Gabsmacked, and you'll see little stuff that I do where I walk around in public and explain to you what it's like, and I use headphones and things like that. Teachers resented me because I was smarter than them. Some of them did, yes. Some of them loved it. Some teachers, and I wasn't aware of any of this. So growing up in school, I couldn't understand why I'd be targeted constantly for either forward or backwards. Okay, homeschool. Yeah, homeschool could be good, could be not be good. So I'm not really getting any coherent story out. I'm sorry, because I'm just keep answering everybody. So what else can I tell you about the autist? We're flipping in between. My brain works like this, by the way. It's completely scattered. I'll be happy to purchase some. It would be my pleasure. Oh yeah, anyone who pre-orders gets a signed copy. Gets a signed copy from me. And it's been 3.5 weeks, and we're now up to 12% of the amount that we need. So small, keep schools popular. Yeah, you got to go to GoFundMe, not Asperger's, /Gabsmacked. Yes. Yes, it is a possible behavior. GoFundMe /Gabsmacked. It's $50. Yeah, put in $50, but even though you put in $50, you're only going to be charged $30-something because it's Australian. So just enter in 50 because that's Australian currency. You're autistic or no? I am. I would say to you, I'm one of the few autistic savants in the world. Anticipate it taking till printing. GoFundMe /Gabsmacked. It only costs 30. There you go. Go to Gabsmacked on YouTube and have a look at first live autism speech. Yeah, I had night terrors up till about 6. I had they're in the book as well. They're called hallucinations. You're a sociopath. I would suggest you watch the replay and then maybe that will answer your question. Have you ever not slept well through the night? Sleeping is a problem, of course. Yeah, I was part of a sleep study. Birth chart, no. 40 would be wrong. I understand why you're asking me that. It's all good, my brother. Don't worry about it. Yeah, hallucinations I had up until age 6, which are in the book as well. And I used to run into if you want, I do them for people. Always a pleasure, John. Why not? Sometimes, as a joke, I attribute my autism to being born on Friday the 13th. So what else can we talk about? Yeah, the night terrors. So my kids on the spectrum. Yeah, sorry, I was part of a sleep study, and it turns out that people with autism have irregular circadian rhythms. Okay. You can message me at Facebook at Gabsmacked page on Facebook. and then I'll go to whatever link you send me. Are you on Twitter? I am on Twitter. Yeah, Twitter as well. You can do that, no problem. So it's very confusing. I've had that problem myself. My mum would call me and wouldn't wonder why I wasn't answering my phone. So this, yes, my daughter also, they forgot her on the bus once because of it. It's because I was sleeping during the day. Where were we? So the author struggles. Do they make the sunglasses for men? I'm not sure, but I'm guessing they'd be good for you. Where were we? This is the worst scope ever, man. Yeah, probably. I just find my sunglasses. Gotta cook, be right back. No worries, have fun, Platinum. So, one of the biggest... Yeah, I know. One of the... I'm out of here. I'm going to turn off... what do you call it? How do I hide chat? I'm going to hide chat temporarily, just so I can actually talk to you guys. So, the world is very confusing for the autist. It's not really that the autist has a problem. It's that the world has the problem. You can look at it from that perspective. Because the autist has a few brilliant tendencies too, and they're not that they're disadvantaged in general. They're only disadvantaged in this world because most people are not autistic. That's all. But the autist just sees the world in a completely different way. So there are benefits to that. One of the benefits, well, I'll give you the benefits. So with me, they're highlighted because I have the savant brain, and there's only a few people on the planet that have that brain. Hence why I'm the subject of all these studies and why I get into so much shit and people don't understand that I'm not the person they accuse me to be. Now, the savant brain mixed with autism brings out these traits, but they're the same traits. So even if they're not a savant, the autist will have similar traits. So the hypersensitivity allows me to be what people have labeled me here as Sherlock Holmes. So I can see levels of detail that the regular brain blocks out. I can see what type of driver is in a car and which way they're going to go, how their behavioral patterns. I see all of them like a chessboard. I can do certain things, which I won't get into. I've said that on other scopes. I was able to learn French and Italian in 40 hours and become a teacher in the same school where I learned them. That's the savant part. But the autistic part was the ability to hear the Italian in the other room when I was learning French. So that sort of, the brain puts everything in at once, and it can cause a lot of overload, which is why I wear earplugs a lot. Especially you guys see me on a lot of my VIP scopes. I'm always wearing my little orange earplugs. It also allows me to hear everyone's accents, and I've had to consciously build up the self. So I have a scope that's called the super self, and that talks about how the autist has to build up the understanding of the world consciously instead of subconsciously. So they don't understand things until they trial and error them. So if someone says to you, it's a nice day outside, you think that they are telling you that because you don't know. So then they'll say, but I can see it's nice. Why are you telling me? Right. So, look at this. I've got to show you this for a sec. Isn't that pretty? So that's one thing about the autist. Another thing that's important to know about the autist is that regular humans contradict themselves all the time. And one of the advantages with the autist is that we can see arguments and see through arguments that other people don't see. Now, regular humans don't see this because they'll talk to each other and the person saying something is saying something completely different to what the other person hears. Now, the autist doesn't hear either of those. What they actually hear is the exact words themselves. So, for example, I went and did a professional translation exam to get qualified as a professional translator in Arabic. And I scored exactly 0. And they asked, and the comments as to why I scored exactly 0 was because my translation was so perfectly literal that I completely lost the whole meaning of the text. But at the same time, it makes me brilliant at studying Islam and the Quran, because I read every word for what it is without all of the connotations that if you are Muslim or you're anti-Muslim or any of these people who add emotion to a certain study. they become blinded by their emotional biases, whereas the autist just reads it for what it is, and then you can take it any way you like. And you see that in both sides. You'll see like anti-Islamists say it's evil, look at this, look at this, look at this, and they get crazy. And then you see, you know, true Muslims who go, look how beautiful it is because it says it, and it doesn't say either, right? You read it and it is what it is. It's either gross, it's good, it's disgusting. You can apply all those adjectives to it. So that's where the autist has advantages. Those, of course, turn into disadvantages with regular humans because, as I said, regular humans contradict themselves. And they don't mean to do that, but they'll say something like, it's a lovely day outside, isn't it? And then they might say, but I'm going to stay indoors and cook. Right? Now, that everyone here thinks, well, there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? Well, the autist sees that as a contradiction because they're like, why are you staying inside and cooking if you think it's such a lovely day outside? What is the relationship between the two? What is the relationship between a day outside and cooking inside? Is it because do you cook inside on lovely days? Or, you know, so they start to try and find connections. They try to understand what's going on. And then when they try to understand, or they might say, why are you cooking? They'll say, because I have to make you dinner. And then the regular person will think the autist is being an asshole or egocentric. And the poor autist is completely confused because they don't understand why you're saying certain things. Now, let me bring back the chats. I just want to ask you guys, I can't read the question, so I've just come back. I want to ask you guys, do you want me to take the chat off and keep going? Or do you want me to answer your questions and get squirrel-based distracted again? Let's see what you guys want. Yes, I don't know the yes to which one. Hi chat, keep going. Okay, so keep going. So Ernie Banks, chat off, chat off, chat off, chat off. All right, someone else. We should get you to sign. Hold it says shut up please so you can focus. Off. What's my IQ beyond what can be measured? You have one question. Okay, send me the question at Gab Smacked Facebook. Everyone else says off. It's going off right now. Wow, amazing. Alrighty, so we're back to being on my own, sitting here looking at my face, talking smack that people seem to want to listen to. Amazing day. So for example, right now I look at all of the chlorophyll, right? The chlorophyll. Yeah, the chlorophyll or the chloroform. No, chlorophyll, which is converting the colors of trees into what is green, which I know is just a reaction between that and the nodes in my eyes, and only the color nodes, not the peripheral nodes, which only see black and white, which are very good at seeing things at night. So that's what my brain does constantly, right? And people say, oh, you must be some sort of genius. Well, yes, so the problem is I can't tell you what's related only to the autism, what's related to the genius part, right? Because they're obviously intertwined, they come together, they come as a package deal. So now I got distracted by the helicopter, and then now there's a Qantas jet, which is level with the horizon, and it is heading away from the airport, so it's probably flying to Canberra. So these are little things that I think of the solar paneled roofs over there. I think of the clouds. I realize that the sun, right? The sun has now moved about 2 centimeters, right? Which means I've been here for about 30 minutes. And is that correct? Yes, it is. And my battery's about to die. So if you guys don't mind, my battery is how can we prove he is smart? You can't. You can only prove that I'm not stupid. Oh no. Alright, I'm going to leave you guys here for a sec. I'm going to go get my charger and I'll be back. Won't be long. I'll leave you with... I'm going to leave you with Pompous. let's get back to business. I've just got to plug in the charger. Sorry about that. All right. Let us bring the charger over. Very sorry about that. Yeah, we lost people. We're down to 15. Sorry about that. I have to move a bit closer now. So now I can't really see anything that anyone's saying anyway because of the sun. But I am gradually getting darker, my friends, and this is the winter sun. Alright, let's hide the chat and see how we go. What are you wearing on your waistline? Ooh, bum bags, because I have no short-term memory. I have been asked that a lot. I do not play chess. I never have. Sound off. Sorry, chat off. Gonna turn the chat off. Now, let's turn it off. Okay. How do I do this? What have I done? You like that you have no control over something. Over reading the chat. Yeah, it's so bad. Where am I? Hide chat. Alright, here we go. So, let's get back to what we were saying. Actually, I need to turn chat on because I don't remember what we were saying. What were we talking about? Voice and mouth syncing. Does anyone remember what we were actually talking about? Yeah. Mad money at chess, yeah, probably. It's just a shame that I'm not really into money. Does anyone remember what we were talking about? Oh yeah, the two cases. So the autist and the sociopath. It's winter there. Alright, autist and the sociopath. So as we were saying, the autist and the sociopath are mirror images of each other, but they look the same. The sociopath is egocentric and narcissistic, or they tend to be correlated traits, whilst the autist is unaware of the fact that others exist. But when they're made aware consciously, then they don't forget it. And they have to learn each rule step by step. And it's hard for them because neurotypicals get frustrated with autists all the time. And so autists get punished for being who they are. And that's part of life. So in a way, it makes us stronger. And that's part of something I was going to talk about later, which is called mental immunity. And so what I mean by mental immunity is that people who live in places that are not sterile get a lot of germs. And for that reason, their immune system is much stronger, so they don't actually get sick as much, to a certain degree. And mental immunity is the same. If you are persecuted, like people who are autistic or white Christian men, for example, these communities that get persecuted or put down or whatever, or marginalized or treated like shit or have a harder life, they end up becoming mentally much stronger. And so, ironically, probably a bit more successful in life. Now, the autists maybe not as much because they actually do have something that's debilitating in this world. So the autists themselves is not disabled, but they appear that way because we live in a world that does not work the way we do. Our actual circuitry is so different that when I sit and communicate with you guys, it is the weirdest thing in the world and so unorthodox, and I'm relying on what I have learned as opposed to being who I am. Me being who I am completely has people misunderstand me, including my own family, my own immediate family, my mother and my brother, who you would expect because of their high intellect to actually understand me completely, but they understand me naught. Hey brother, that's Nick. Hey Nick. And so that's one of the guys that I used to tutor. Lovely guy. Okay, something fell down. Alright, getting back to this beautiful sun giving me this winter tan. I'm just giving you the thumbs up. Yeah. Oh, okay. Have fun. I accidentally confused him because I gave him the thumbs up. He wasn't sure what that meant. But then I just explained, I'm just giving you the thumbs up. So it's good, yeah, we go through a lot of these stories. So, talking about our two top scopers, this is the worst, man, honestly. This Periscope is supposed to be for these two scopers, and we haven't done anything. So, the two top scopers. One of them has an autistic child, and the other one might have a sociopathic child. And so that's why these are both in the same scope. So I'm going to talk about the lady with the sociopathic child, potentially. And she's not a child, she's a grown woman, but in Western society, grown women are like children now. And not just women, but men as well. You know, once they're 22, 23, you see a lot of people come from Europe or, you know, like from Eastern Europe or from the Middle East at 23, geez, they can almost be parents, right? And in the West, our 23-year-olds are like babies. So the question that they asked me was, if my child becomes a complete terror and treats us like shit and then blames it on stomach pains, are they sociopathic? The answer is no, but maybe. And that's normally the answer you're going to get, right? You can never be 100% sure. But just from one situation, it could be anything. So the process of discovering the truth is by eliminating potential hypotheses. So you think of all the potential ideas that you have, right? One is that she might have been in so much pain that she couldn't see straight, and she might be 1% sociopathic, and that combination made it really bad. Another option could be that she is really sociopathic and doesn't give a F about anyone. Number 3, she could have been really stressed because she's going through some really traumatic psychological times, which completely blinds her to what's happening with everyone else. And it could be all of the above, you don't know. So that's my answer to you. There you go. My short answer, you've waited an hour to hear it. Thank you. I keep touching my glasses all the time. It's such a bad habit. And now I touch it again. All right, so that's one. In terms of the child with autism, they will probably have a lot of psychological trauma, and they'll probably keep getting it every day because you as a neurotypical and everyone around you is scarring them psychologically, but it's not deliberate. So ultimately the autist will feel like they are the problem. And I guess in this world we are the problem. But focusing on their strengths is really important. So the ability to take things only as literally and not understand the emotional world in which you guys live. And in fact, it's invisible. It's completely invisible to the autist. But the autist is unbelievably emotionally sensitive. In fact, the autist has a bigger heart than most regular people. Right? But they don't understand how to use it. But if they do, they become amazing. So, you know, they can end up becoming Buddhist monks or Christian monks or hermits, or, you know, they travel the world and climb mountains. These are the type of things that people on the autism spectrum tend to focus on, because they see the world, the literal bones. You can call it the bones of the world. They don't see the meat, right? And the meat is what you guys see. Now, I don't see it either, but my savant ability has allowed me to infer it. And I do that in mathematics a lot, right? I infer imaginary numbers, which is why I think I scored a perfect score on complex analysis in third year mathematics, which supposedly is difficult. I'm not sure, but that's another thing the autists can do, right? Like mathematics is something that they can rip apart anyone else at without even trying. And that's because mathematics, which is the fundamental language of the universe, is the language of the autist. That's how we work. And things need to be explained that way to the autist. So I've told this story before, but I had another client of mine whose son, as soon as I saw him, like she didn't even know, but as soon as I saw him, I said, he's one of us. I just knew. He was only 2 years old, or 3 years old. And I saw him, I said, he's one of us. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, he's part of the family. Right. So then she took him and got tested. Turns out he was correct, but it's obvious, right? If you're autistic, you can tell, right? Who's like you. I call them the normal people, right? Anyway, she said to him, go and get your shoes from the room, right? And now that means nothing, go get your shoes. So she said, go get the ones with the red, they're red and black. Now he went up and down multiple times and got her every shoe that had red and black in it except for the one she wanted. And in the end, she said, why didn't you get these ones, which were the ones that she wanted? And he said, because they have white laces on top. Now she thought he was being a smartass when he wasn't, because she did not ask for the red and black shoes with the white laces on top, zigzagged across it. Like, you have to be specific. We are computer programs, right? All of us as humans are, but people, autistics even more so. So if you say your real father is an asshole, right? She's going to say, oh my God, he's an arsehole, I didn't know that. That's it. Because the autist is straight up. We're straight up. We don't have this, I'm going to say something that means something else. No, it is what it is. And that also can make us much funnier too, right? So these are the answers to your questions. I'll bring the chat back and we'll see how we're going. All right. Well, depends what they learn better, what they like. Merhaba. The only major problem is their speech, and they do. I missed it. Damn it. Twin stars. Speech, and they do learn slow, but they learn better. Mentally challenged. It depends what you mean by slower. Did I finish school? Yes, I did. If you finish, it doesn't, not necessarily, right? So once again, autism is a spectrum. So I'm an autistic savant, which means that my IQ is almost immeasurable, right? But you can have people who are high on the autistic spectrum but not savants. They could be the opposite, so they have learning disabilities. The thing that we all have in common, what all of us have in common on the spectrum, being honest, what I have learned being on the spectrum, what we all have in common is the discrepancy between the ability to function in different parts of our brains. So, all of us, including me, have brain distribution functions that are uneven. So, for example, I can hear, and that's how I became a classical pianist as a child. I can hear the classical piano and then repeat it perfectly, right? And as you guys know, I got a perfect score at the Conservatory of Music and topped the state, and without even being able to read. But my visual ability, so to recognize facial expressions and stuff, is almost hopeless. So that's what it means by savant. And other autists, even ones with learning disabilities, part of their brain will be able to function at average speed and another part will be at retarded speed, right? And that's the same with me. Like, the only difference is my whole brain level has been shifted up through the roof so that even my retarded section is smart and the powerful section is genius. So to answer Liran's question, I found a new way to block chats. If I get a question, I hit the question and I leave it up there until I answer it. When did you become aware that being honest can hurt people's feelings at times? Good question. My ex-fiance when I was 26. Before that, I had no idea. I still don't know exactly when that happens because it happened yesterday. To answer your point, there was a girl who messaged me and told me something personal, one of our scopers, and I said to her, well, if that happened, then why didn't you do that and do this? Completely logical. And I saw her breathing slow down and her words of frequency slow down, and that's how I know that she was pissed off. So I've learned stuff like that. I hope, if I haven't answered your question, if you wish to remain anonymous, those two scopers, just message me on Facebook. Oh, that's great, Jennifer. Thank you. I'm glad. I always underestimate these things. He doesn't know any better. Well, yeah, it's another thing. Autism and... Yeah, message me on Facebook if I've answered your questions, guys. I can't see them during the scope, obviously. But I don't want to identify you in public. I mean, unless you're happy to answer me publicly now, you can tell me whether I've answered your questions for those people the two people that this scope is for. But if you want to be anonymous, just email me later and tell me, and then I'll know. The thing about autism is a delayed... You answered and explained perfectly. Awesome. Thanks, AZ. So there you go. It was about AZ. She was one of them. The other thing about autism is it's a developmental delay disorder. That's one thing you can call it. So you're always welcome, my dear. Always a pleasure. It's because of you guys that I do this. I wouldn't waste my time otherwise. I love... There is nothing more beautiful than helping people, and that's what I try to do in my company. Always help everyone. Clearly, that was misunderstood. For you guys, now I can help even more people from my freaking home with time and work. Well, the thing about the autist, and sometimes people, when I'm learning, confuse me as actually less intelligent than regular humans. I get that a lot, believe it or not. And that's because, not because I'm slower at learning, but sometimes I have to learn things, I have to learn 10 times as much to get to the same position as regular people. So for example, hi, how are you? I learned that at 26 from my psychiatrist, because he had to explain to me that how are you does not literally mean how was your condition. So what are the other advantages of the autist in general? When you explain something to them, right, you have to do it in a logical fashion, but it also makes them better scientists. In fact, I reckon science probably came out of people who were autistic. Otherwise, we'd still be in caves, like, trying to kill each other. And we mostly still are, I think. I think I'm all spoken out. Unless anyone has any questions, I think I'm going to end this scope. And I've got to go to Gabversity anyway later. I'm doing bus work today, by the way. You made me happy cry the other day to see how my son sees life. I've read hundreds of books. That's amazing. He's still in diapers. Yeah. The other thing which I didn't mention, which I really should, you are welcome, is that the parenting style in the West, will you scope working? I can't use the phone when I'm driving a bus. It's illegal. So how would you when I got out of them? I'm very different, I guess. How old was I? I learned everything in a delayed fashion. You're welcome, Platinum Mimi. Always a pleasure. But being a savant messes with that slightly. So what's the weird thing about my situation, and why there are only a couple people like me in the world, thank goodness for the world, is that my autism is actually really, really high. In fact, there are only 8 people in Australia with autism as high as mine. And I'm the only one who can function over the age of 11. So when you are gifted / cursed with that type of responsibility, you really have nothing else to do but share that with people. Because I'm basically the only one around who can articulate what it's like to be an autist to regular humans. In fact, that's how my book starts. My gift is a curse. Likewise, my friend. Likewise. Yeah, I've got it. I'll talk about it next time because I think this scope's finished. Always, I appreciate it back. But the parenting style in the West actually damages people with autism even more. But reverted back at 8. Interesting. Yeah. I was a mix on and off till I was about 8 years old. But I will let you guys go, I think. If you have any, your savant side makes it hard for others to understand the autism side. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And that's exactly what's happening now. Because people think, how can someone so intelligent not understand human behavior? It doesn't make sense. And from their perspective, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. So yeah, definitely, let's get this book happening. We got to get more and more. Share the rain. Hashtag share the rain. I love that. That is so hilarious. That's another awesome meme. Hashtag share the rain. All right. Sun's going out now. Western parenting, it brings tribulation. You guys are so much love to share, and you're fun. And funny. Please come on a lot. Oh, thank you, my dear. Julie Renee, I'll add you to our VIP list, and then you can get more scopes, because my VIP, I scope a couple of times a day, and to my GoFundMe and Patreon, I scope heaps more. To work with others on a level not like yours. It's very difficult. Do you feel better after a scope like this, or drained? Both. Good questions. All right, I'm going. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 to petrol car 3, 2, I'm probably a 2 litre. Yeah, Toyota Camry. Bye.